Chapter 181, Unable to be Eaten 3. I could see the attributes window. I finally understood a few things that didn't make sense. The reason I hadn't been able to see my attributes window was due to fourth wall. The fourth wall protected me from other beings, but at the same time, it was a skill that isolated me from myself. Checking the attributes window. The system configuration is unstable. Some skill names and levels are limited. Then for the first time, I saw my attributes window. Personal information. Name Kim Dokja. Age 28 years old. Constellation support, none. Modifier, the ugliest king tentative. Private attribute, 8 lives hero scenario. Before the attributes window was fully revealed, the screen crashed and sudden messages emerged. Some constellations are approaching your mental barrier. At this moment, I wanted to say, oops, maybe the constellations had been looking for this opportunity, for the day that my information was revealed to the world. The constellations of the nebula Vedas are approaching you. The constellations of the nebula Olympus are approaching you. The constellations of the nebula Papyrus are approaching you. The constellations who sought to improve my existence started to forcibly open my mind. At this moment, the exclusive skill, fourth wall, is reactivated independently of your will. Exclusive skills, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint LV, Bookmark LV, Character List LV, Fourth Wall LV, Black LV, Black. Overall evaluation, Black Square U Black. A lot of the information was hidden by Black Square. As numerous bricks piled up, strong sparks that concealed my information appeared. The constellation, founder of humanity, is groaning. The constellation poked out his eyes, is covering his eyes and stepping back. The constellation, Scorpion Goddess, steps back while protecting her tail. Some of the constellations approaching you are struck and have retreated. The countless letters rotated reliably. The fierce sparks of the fourth wall were protecting me from the constellations. The guy who was fighting me a while ago was now emitting a fierce aura towards the constellations. The fourth wall is baring its teeth towards the star stream. I stared at the fourth wall. The last thing I heard was a message from a well-known constellation. The constellation, Secretive Plotter, is smiling at you. The message was distinctively different from the other constellations. Surely he didn't see my information in such a short period of time. Even if he did see it, he wouldn't have been able to check everything. I couldn't confirm all the information despite opening the attributes window. The sparks calmed down, and the wall turned towards me again. The fourth wall is angry with you. I stared at the wall. For a long time, I thought this wall was the boundary between the novel and reality. The wall allowed me to adapt to the new world and show unusual judgment in terrible situations. However, once I asked about the actual identity of the wall, I couldn't come to a conclusion. The only thing I could be certain of was that this wall had protected me for a long time. There were a few crises, but I overcame them due to the presence of this wall. It was thanks to this wall that I could arrive here. I brought my hands towards the letters making up the wall. I'm sorry. The fourth wall is shaking. The strange texture of the letters wrapped around my fingers. The fourth wall felt like this. The letters of the wall clung to my hands like Dr. Fish read Gara. They seemed to be licking and biting me. It was a feeling that couldn't be clearly shared. There was no analogy for it. The fourth wall was like a wet puppy, an abandoned child, a teenager who didn't listen, etc. The fourth wall was like me. Then a sentence appeared on the wall. Kim Dokja is an idiot. The sentence seemed to have been written by a child just learning Hangul. It wasn't a story related to me or the world. It was the words of the fourth wall. I smiled at the wall. The fourth wall wrote unrecognized characters, as if it was confused for a moment. Then after a while, it wrote a sentence again. Kim Dokja thought, the fourth wall is in existence with its own will as well. It was starting again. Then were the words written in brackets from the fourth wall. However, the fourth wall's tone is too static compared to that. Then who wrote those words? If this really is a wall, there is something else in the wall. Stop reading other people's thoughts. The fourth wall is turning its head away. The fourth wall is telling you not to forcibly turn it off again. I kept talking while touching the fourth wall. I know, instead I have a request. The fourth wall is looking at you. I took a brief breath before saying, "Give me back my mother." The wall shook briefly, as if to judge if my words were true or not. Then a sentence appeared on the wall. Kim Dokja hates his mother. That's right. Kim Dokja knows what happened with his mother. He knows what his mother has been through, the life she lived, and what she was hiding. Just because he knows doesn't mean he understands everything. Yes. Because of this, Kim Dokja still hates his mother. This is what human emotions are like. There is no magic that will heal all wounds just because someone else has a deep wound as well. You have great insight, I agree. Thus, Kim Dokja can't understand it himself. Why is he trying to save his mother? I can't explain. Not everything can be expressed in sentences. I quietly looked at the wall and said, "I don't have much energy left. Please help me. I'm asking you." The fourth wall was silent for a long time before displaying the following sentence. Kim Dokja. Could an existence who already entered the wall come out again? I didn't know if it was possible or not. Still, I had to try. Then the wall started to move. Something was vomited out from the wall. There were numerous letters. The letters gathered to become words, and the words came together to become sentences. The sentences gathered into paragraphs, and the paragraphs gathered again to become a story. The story soon formed a person. I embraced my mother who was lying in the letters. Then I told the fourth wall, "Thank you." The fourth wall shook and started to disperse. SLEPI. Little by little, the surrounding space was broken. The constellation, secretive plotter, is snapping at the great old ones spying on you. The darkness of the outer universe was clearing away. Time and space were broken, and the surrounding scenery changed to the second floor of Dark Castle. Then the subsequent messages appeared. Your Dark Castle ranking has changed. Your current Dark Castle ranking is second place. You have met the hidden goal of the main scenario. You are eligible to participate in the last scenario of Dark Castle. 2 days had passed since the battle on the plains. All mortals lost their fighting spirit in the face of a god. The forces of the Wanderers and the forces of Paradise. In a sense, the powerful despair brought peace to all of them. The commanders of the Wanderers and the commanders of Paradise settled the dead and cleared up the situation. The unnecessary disturbance disappeared, and the second floor of Dark Castle was slowly gaining stability. The rankers were slowly selected to go up to the next floor, and people agreed to entrust them with the future of Dark Castle. Most rankers were gathered in front of a small coffin. It is his job to die all the time. Kim Dokja died as soon as he came back from defeating the outer gods. He fought against such a mighty being that his companions thought it was natural. Jung Hee-won said, "Will he be alive again tomorrow? Last time it also took 3 days." The group had adjusted to Kim Dokja dying and weren't as shocked. Yu Sanga bit her lips and wondered. By the way, did we need to put him in a coffin? Even the dead should be put in a bed. Jung Hee-won made an excuse. The party members stared at Kim Dokja's coffin with different meanings. Lee Hyun-sung was watching with a reverent gaze. Shin Yu-sung looked guilty, and Yu Sanga was confused. Then, "By the way, Master, I thought you would go to find hidden pieces." At Lee Jihai's words, the party members all looked from the coffin towards a certain place. Yu Jonghyuk frowned at the gazes and replied, "Now the only hidden pieces in Dark Castle are worthless." "Then the reason why you came here?" "I need Kim Dokja to move to the next floor." "HRMM, aren't the two of you very close these days? A few days ago I saw." Yu Jonghyuk's impression became grim, and the cowardly Lee Jihai closed her mouth. Jung Hee-won tapped Lee Jihai and rebuked her. "Stop teasing Jonghyuk SSI. Don't disturb the two of them. Oh, fine. In addition, you know the reason why he came here without asking. It is the same for everyone. At these words, the faces of the party members became solemn. They looked down at Kim Dokja's coffin. Yong Hee-won opened her mouth again. He isn't afraid of death because he will live again. Just because he had multiple lives didn't mean he should keep sacrificing them for others. Shin Yusung touched the surface of the coffin. If it wasn't for Dokja Ajasi, we would have died by now. No one doubted it. Lee Hyun-sung, Yong Hee-won, Lee Gil-young and Lee Ji-hai as well, all of them had been saved by Kim Dokja. Lee Ji-hai sighed. I'm not saying this to be cheesy, but if I had 2 lives, I would probably give one to Ajasi. I'm afraid he won't receive it because you only have 6 points in affection. This kid, in any case, aren't we all the same when it comes to the garter belt? The group smiled as they watched Lee Ji-hai and Lee Gil-young clashing. It was an unbelievable sight when people were crying with frustration at the bloody battlefield 2 days ago. Yoo Jong-hyuk watched them from a distance. Kim Dokja appeared and his plans changed a lot. The easy scenarios became difficult, and the simple stories became complicated. Those who were supposed to die survived. Yoo Jong-hyuk looked down at his hands. Perhaps among those who were supposed to die, Yoo Jong-hyuk himself would be included. Yoo Jong-hyuk thought it was very strange. This landscape could be made be a person who wasn't a regressor. This regression might be better than any other round of life that he had lived. It was terribly complicated in his mind. By the way, isn't that fate over now? Dokja Ajasi died, Lee Ji-hai asked, and some companions replied. Ah, that's right, that reminds me. Since he was destined to die because of a loved one, isn't the fate fulfilled? He died because of his mother. Yes, why didn't I think of his mother? The voices were boisterous. Yoo Sang-ga watched Yoo Jong-hyuk standing in the distance with a complicated face. Yoo Jong-hyuk also had a thought as he faced the eyes. The fate isn't over. There was the variable called Cheok Young-young, but the nebulae weren't that simple. The nebulae knew about Kim Dokja's resurrection. Thus, the fate could never end this way. In addition, the nebulae were angry with Kim Dokja and were likely to maliciously engage in realizing the fate. Above all, the big hurdle that was the next scenario would soon arrive. Thus, Yoo Jong-hyuk needed to choose. He silently stared up at the sky. It was like he was looking for something there. After a while, his gaze was returned. The constellation is looking at his incarnation. The constellation. It was the 3rd regression, but Yoo Jong-hyuk still didn't know who his sponsor was. It was the source of the regression, and the one who made Yoo Jong-hyuk suffer a terrible tragedy. Yoo Jong-hyuk took a breath and opened his mouth. Sponsor, I have to ask you something. Chapter 182, The 73rd Demon King 1. You have died. The aftereffect was death. It was the shock from my stories being eaten by the Eater of Dreams. It was quickly restored with the ability of the 4th wall, but it was difficult for it to be as perfect before it was broken. The head. I was in a half-awake state for 3 days. My consciousness only appeared and disappeared. Every time my consciousness returned, I reflected on what had happened so far. After this scenario, the flow of the story will return. During the course of the first 9 scenarios, I undermined the flow of the original novel. It ranged from saving a few people to largely changing scenarios. Of course, changing the scenarios didn't mean that the original elements would be useless. Yoo Jong-hyuk had experienced over 100 life cycles. Even if the scenarios changed, there was still plenty of information I could use. Nevertheless, in order to take advantage of the large currents, there should be parts that flowed according to the existing scenario. Fortunately, the Seoul Dome scenario was a closed scenario. There was the national convention in the middle, and there were a few butterfly effects to worry about, but the flow of the star stream is still what I remembered. Moreover, some of the characters had grown beyond what I thought. I had enough power to drive the flow in the future. I observed the characters one by one using the 3rd-person perspective. The first one I checked was Yong Hee-won, the Judge of Destruction. It isn't easy to control yet. My sponsor said that once I can use this perfectly, I could deal with that tentacle monster. I don't know when that can happen. Jung Hee-won muttered as she emitted white flames. She had little weight in the original, and was the most powerful character I chose. She had the Judge of Destruction attribute from Ways of Survival and gained Uriel's Hell Flames ignition. If this continued, it wasn't strange for her to be one of the top 100 strongest people in Ways of Survival or even the top 10. Lee Hyun-sung, who was sparring with Jung Hee-won, opened his mouth. It is getting better little by little, Hee-won SSI. I think Hyun-sung SSI has also improved a lot. Now you can cover your whole body with steel. Jung Hee-won spoke without knowing anything, but she wasn't wrong. Before the end of the Seoul Dome scenario, Lee Hyun-sung started to inherit steel transformation. However, Lee Hyun-sung wasn't satisfied with his accomplishment. I am working hard, but there is still a long way to go to help Dokja SSI. There were people who did better when they were told to keep up the good work and that they were going a good job. This was the case with Lee Hyun-sung. The constellation, who doesn't yet have a name, has sponsored 100 coins to Incarnation Lee Hyun-sung. Dokja SSI, the perplexed Lee Hyun-sung stuttered with wide eyes. Jung Hee-won clicked her tongue. Wow, he truly is watching. He has the temperament of a stalker, but isn't 100 coins too stingy? I turned my gaze towards the two children practicing tamming. The children kept commanding the mighty dragon. Shin Yu-sung felt my gaze and smiled towards the air. The constellation, who doesn't yet have a name, is smiling gently. In Ways of Survival, the relationship between constellation and incarnation was often similar to a parent and child. I never had a child, but I knew what it felt like when seeing Shin Yu-sung. It was a bond that was more solid than blood. It was really tiny and fragile, yet so precious that I didn't know what to do. Of course, not every father in the world was a good father, and not all constellations had the same mind. It was common for incarnations to be stabbed in the back by their sponsors. The second-grade evolutionary species, the Chimera dragon, let out a deep cry. It still wasn't completely obeying, but since it joined, the power of the party had shot up. It was currently a second-grade species, but if it reached first grade or transcendence, the dragon would become a monster that even constellations were afraid of. Lee Jihai looked at the Chimera dragon and sighed enviously. Damn, I should have chosen a good sponsor. I thought that the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare was good. In any case, the ones who didn't work hard were those who complained the most. A person who didn't know how excellent the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare was. Once I got back, I should teach her a lesson. I looked around at all the characters and sighed lightly as I organized my thoughts. This is good enough for the next scenario. Lee Jihai and Gong Pildu's growth was a bit disappointing, but the situation wasn't bad. There was even Yu Sanga present. Once we escaped from Seoul Dome, progressing through the subsequent scenarios would be quite easy. Master, do you have any strong skills that don't require a sponsor? Teach me. It is impossible for you now. Yu Jonghyuk had overcome the regression depression to a certain extent. If they continued to follow Yu Jonghyuk's route, I didn't have to worry about the survival of the characters. Rather, the problem was on my side. A huge fate is hopping for your death. I looked at the fate message that still hadn't disappeared. I had hoped the fate might be fulfilled after experiencing death because of my mother. Naturally, that didn't happen. Maybe the person who would kill me wasn't the significant problem. The important thing was that I couldn't avoid this fate with resurrection. Damn nebulae bastards. In the end, the reason this happened was because I changed the scenarios too much. I also received excessive attention after becoming a constellation. This way, the problem would constantly appear, even if I postponed it through resurrection. There shouldn't be another situation like this. It was true just looking at the Eater of Dreams. An outer god descended, and the party was nearly destroyed. It didn't matter since I could resurrect, but the other party members couldn't. None of the party members could die. In particular, everything would be in vain if Yu Jonghyuk died. In the first place, all of this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me. The nebula Vedas is waiting for your resurrection. The nebula Papyrus is waiting for your resurrection. The nebula Olympus is waiting for your resurrection. The nebulae were still waiting for a chance. I had attracted their attention and was too weak to stand up against them. How could I protect my party members and shake off the nebulae? Indeed, that is the only way. Then a system message emerged. All the conditions for resurrection have been met. The attribute 8 lives has been activated. Now it was time to go back. Your body will be resurrected. There was the sound of a breath being taken. The hardest moment to adapt to was the first breath after the resurrection. I woke up, but darkness filled my surroundings. Maybe it was because my party members put me in a coffin. Damn, I didn't know why they put a person who would survive inside a coffin. Were they acting sarcastic? The privilege of 8 lives has been activated. The third head of the snake has been sacrificed. The power of the head is fighting spirit. Once again, I received a privilege effect. The benefits of 8 lives were less effective than other high-level privileges, but it was better than nothing. The legs that had been lost in the process of dying were restored to their original state. Now the only thing left was to kick off the coffin lid. Oh, the rumor is real. He really resurrected. As soon as I pushed off the lid of the coffin, the people gathered in the area cheered. Maybe rumors of my resurrection had spread because a variety of incarnations were gathered and watching me. Your resurrection has increased your fame among the incarnations. Your status is rising modestly. Finally, Yong-Hee-Won used Hell Flame's ignition to greet me. She used the skill in a way that would make the constellations of Eden enraged. Congratulations on your resurrection. Please don't put me in a coffin next time. Just wait, I'll bring the others. Yong-Hee-Won left, and the indirect messages of the constellations poured into my ears. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, rejoices in your resurrection. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, is congratulating you on your return. The constellation, Goryeo's first sword, is praising your courage. The constellation, abyssal black flame dragon, is grumbling and putting his hands in his pockets. Many constellations greatly admire your achievements. 90,000 coins have been sponsored. 90,000 coins. Perhaps it was because they weren't able to help me the day before yesterday. It was a bit disappointing, but I understood. Rather, it would be more disappointing if they helped me confront the other nebulae. The evaluation of your achievement has been completed. You have earned the semi-myth rated story. The story, One Who Killed an Outer God, has been acquired. Due to the achievement of the story, some outer gods show hostility towards you. Due to the achievement of the story, some outer gods are curious about you. Due to the achievement of the story, some great old ones are watching you. Your modifier will soon be announced. A semi-myth level story. It was a bit disappointing that I didn't receive a myth-rated story, but it was still satisfactory. I would have received a myth rating if I fought a great old one. However, if I actually encountered a great old one, I would have vanished before I could even have a conversation. You have achieved a new story during the evaluation. The acquisition of a story beyond the existing stories means your status will be re-evaluated. The status will be published in the following scenarios. Your 5th story is in progress. It would be good to start as an upper grade, but at this rate, I might be a considerable level among the upper grades. It would be announced in the following scenarios. The timing was okay. The long-awaited 10th main scenario, the 73rd Demon King. This scenario was the last scenario to be carried out in Seoul Dome, and the participants were extremely limited. Only the 1st and 2nd place in the Dark Castle rankings could challenge the scenario. Of course, they wouldn't challenge it alone. They could team up with 4 rankers. Your current Dark Castle ranking is 2nd place. I could take 4 people with me. However, it would be difficult to deal with the enemy that would appear on the next floor with them alone. In other words, I had to get the help of the 1st ranked person to complete the Dark Castle scenario. Then who was first place? Kim Dokja. As soon as I thought this, a voice was heard behind me. I started smiling. Indeed, he was first. Yu Jonghyuk, are you now ranked first? Are you talking about the Dark Castle rankings? Yu Jonghyuk nodded and instantly replied, I am first. The situation is different from the Seoul rankings. This jerk, he was upset that he wasn't first previously. In any case, he was a stingy guy. I inwardly grumbled while opening my mouth. I need your help. You know how you can take people to the next scenario, if you and I take them. I could see my party members running in the distance. In particular, Shin Yusung and Lee Gilyung were fighting each other to be in the lead. I didn't know why they were doing this since there wasn't a prize for being first. I talked for a while, but Yu Jonghyuk didn't answer. I felt something strange and saw Yu Jonghyuk staring at me with serious eyes. Kim Dokja, what is your purpose? Purpose? What is my purpose? If your final goal to reach the end of all the scenarios. I hesitated for a moment before answering, well, I guess so. Can you promise not to give up on that goal, no matter what? What was with this guy all of a sudden? I wanted to turn it into a joke, but I couldn't help feeling serious when watched Yu Jonghyuk. Of course I won't give up. By the way, why are you asking? It's nothing. Yu Jonghyuk looked away from me towards the party members. His left eyebrow was twitching. I saw the eyebrow wriggling like a caterpillar and sensed something in my heart. Hey you. I knew because I had read to the end of Ways of Survival. Yu Jonghyuk's left eyebrow only twitched when he made a serious decision. Once this guy made a serious decision, there was always a high probability of death and regressing. I wanted to use Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint on this bastard, but the party members had already arrived. Before I could speak, Yu Jonghyuk took the lead first. I will announce the participants for the 10th scenario. Chapter 183, The 73rd Demon King 2. The backlash to Yu Jonghyuk's one-sided notification was enormous. Why are you deciding so arbitrarily? Jung Hee-won shouted first after Yu Jonghyuk gave his notification and disappeared. We will depart in 3 days. Until then, increase your rankings. If he says that and goes away, should we just roll over and listen? He should have said that when he was talking to me. Does Dr. SSI want that? Nope. Jung Hee-won was still very spirited. I said, even so, there is a higher probability of surviving if you do as Yu Jonghyuk says. Dr. SSI, whose side are you on? That, I glanced at Yu Jonghyuk in the distance, shrugged and smiled. First of all, it's nice to see all of you. This is the 3rd resurrection. The people who were frozen by Yu Jonghyuk's words smiled awkwardly. Lee Gilyung and Shin Yusung stuck to my legs, while Lee Hyun-sung nodded with a slightly gloomy expression. Congratulations on your resurrection. It has already been a few times, but I'm getting used to it. It would be sad if you get used to it. First of all, let's get organized. These were the words that Yu Jonghyuk one-sidedly gave. There are 2 teams, my team and Kim Dokja's team. 4 people will be arranged for each team. My team will consist of Lee Hyun-sung, Gong Pildu, Lee Jihai, and Lee Sealhwa. It is the 4 of them. Dokja's team will be Jung Hee-won, Shin Yusung, Lee Gilyung, and Yu Sanga. It is another 4. In the end, the configuration was similar to the main party up to now. It meant the companions I had participated in the scenarios so far would challenge the 10th scenario. Perhaps he was being considerate of me, or it might be more comfortable for him. The latter was more likely when thinking about Yu Jonghyuk's personality. Everyone involved didn't have any big complaints about the lineup itself, but Lee Hyun-sung was slightly sullen. I want to be on Dr. SC's team. The teams don't matter since we are all going together. Yes. I patted Lee Hyun-sung's shoulder and turned towards the rest of the party members. The first one to catch my eye was Yu Sanga. So many things happened that it felt strange to meet her eyes. After a moment, Jung Hee-won poked my side. What is it? Do you want her to wear a Chinese dress and guard her belt? Are you still talking about that? It was very shocking. We named it the Kim Dokja garter belt incident. By the way, I won't wear that even if I die. I don't want you to wear it. Then Li Jihai raised her hand. I'm willing to put on a good performance, SSS grade. Stop playing around. I can wear that if it has had a good performance. Hyunsung SSIY. Soldiers don't care about the equipment. I wanted to say that he was using his military spirit in the wrong way when I heard a message from Uriel. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, says that the constellation who made the garter belt was a man. Was this a joke? Damn it, furthermore a constellation. The constellation, queen of the darkest spring, smiles and says that she will invite him once. Come to think of it, this situation was due to Persephone. I would have to argue with her if I ever went back to the underworld. At this point, what is everyone's ranking? For reference, you all know that you have to be within the top 10 to proceed. The party members replied in turn. The first was Jung Hee-won. I am fourth. I got the ranking from the grandmother Lee Bik-soon. Hyung Shin Yusung and I are 8th and 9th. I'm higher than Shin Yusung. I am 5th. Gong Pildu SSI has gone to raise his rankings. There is also Han Soo-young SSI. I forgot about Han Soo-young. Yu Sanga asked like she had read my thoughts. Han Soo-young wasn't on the list. Are you going to leave her behind? Nope, I will take her. Han Soo-young is quite helpful. I see. Yu Sanga smiled weakly once she heard about Han Soo-young. The other party members still didn't know she was the first apostle. Yu Sanga didn't like lying, so she was in a bad mood every time Han Soo-young was mentioned. I didn't know when there would be a chance to tell the story. Jung Hee-won listened on the side and opened her mouth. A total of 10 people can go up. How will you take Han Soo-young SSI? In principle, only 10 people can go. However, there is a hidden piece. Among the items available in Dark Castle, there is one called the 6-man card. This way, non-team members can participate in the next scenario. It is a hidden piece. Is there anything else you want to tell us? I think we need to know what the next scenario is about. You and Yu Jonghyuk are always whispering together. Whispering together, that expression is a bit uncomfortable. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, has a runny nose. Jung Hee-won smiled at me. Then please tell me, Kim Dokja SSI, show me that you are different from Yu Jonghyuk SSI. I looked around and saw the party members watching me like they were grandchildren, waiting for their grandmother's fairy tale. If I was a streamer, I would tell a plausible story about a mighty person who lived once upon a time. However, I was Kim Dokja, not Kim Jakka. TL, Jakka equals writer. Have you ever heard of an existence called a Demon King? Demon King. The party members glanced at each other at the unexpected words. What, the king of demons? Is there such a thing? I know, it comes out all the time in anime. I nodded at Lee Gil-young's words. It is roughly similar. It was a bit different in the setting of ways of survival, but the main point was explained. The 10th scenario is one where we fight against the Demon King. Lee Hyun-sung nodded. Docubus, returnees, tentacled monsters. Certainly, now it is time for a Demon King to come out. The listening Lee Jihai asked, isn't a Demon King too strong? The Demon Marquis was already high. How strong will a Demon King be in comparison? I thought for a moment before answering. A constellation grade. There was a saying in Ways of Survival about the Demon Kings. They were constellations who hadn't ascended. Literally, the Demon Kings were constellations attached to the world. Lee Jihai paled. Then how will we kill it? Or are you and Master going to kill it? No, this time we will all kill it. Can we do it? We can if we all fight together. It was pure luck that Yu Jonghyuk and I defeated the Outer God. Such a thing won't occur twice. Still, don't worry. It is true that a Demon King is as strong as a constellation, but the one upstairs is that strong. Then, I hesitated for a second. I didn't want to tell them too much information at once. The information wasn't just about the Demon Kings, but also the constellations of the star stream. I thought about it before deciding to tell them through the group chat. I will tell you. Then a voice was heard from the air, as if he knew my worries. Everyone, it has been a long time. You don't know how frustrated I've been when I wasn't able to tell to you, haha. Are you ready for the scenario? It was Bihyung. In the original Star Stream, only 72 people were recognized as Demon Kings. They had modifiers like the constellation and governed different kingdoms in the demon world. It might not be equivalent to a nebula, but there were still those who lead forces. They laughed at the constellation who clung to the glory of a constellation and remained on the land that even the Dakibus abandoned. Was that why? The constellations hated the demon kings as much as the outer gods, and this dark castle scenario was made considering the tendencies of such constellations. They watched the incarnations fight and kill the demon king. In short, it was a scenario made to be refreshing to the constellations. Ah, please, I'm not going. After 3 days, I found Han Soo-young hiding in the periphery of Dark Castle. I wouldn't have found her if I hadn't purchased the rope of restraint and searched for life items from the Dakibai bag. Han Soo-young shouted, I won't fight. I'll just wait here and go out when you clear the scenario. You have to go. I don't want to fight the Demon King. The 73rd Demon King is a pushover. Don't you already know that? As I mentioned earlier, only 72 people were recognized as a Demon King in the Star Stream. However, the title of this scenario was the 73rd Demon King. In other words, the guy on the above floor wasn't a formal king. He is still a Demon King, but he isn't as strong as the narrative-grade constellations I've met so far. It is worth fighting. The difficulty might have changed. Hasn't it changed once or twice already? The Dakibus can't change the main scenario difficulty. That is the jurisdiction of the Star Stream. Don't you think the Dakibus are dangerous? Have you already forgotten what happened 3 days ago? It wasn't unusual for Han Soo-young to think like this. She was a person who knew the development of the original novel. If we continue with the scenarios, the whole group will soon be wiped out. You know that the nebulae are aiming at you. I know, that's why I'm well prepared. Prepared? No, how are you prepared? Do you know what will happen in the next scenario? We arrived at the camp and I pointed to the party members without speaking. They were training in a formation. They assumed there was a virtual enemy and practiced skills linkage in combination with changing the formation. Gileung and Yusung go back. Yusang SSI go forward and take care of it. Understood. The calm and coordinate attacks couldn't be compared with the past. The party members' damage overlapped and they attacked based on the enemy's attack radius. Han Soo-young opened her mouth as she closely watched the scene. Is that the Demon King's pattern analysis? I nodded, yes. How much? Almost everything. It wasn't impossible. I had ways of survival, and the database piled up by Yu Jonghyuk who fought the 73rd Demon King. Furthermore, Yu Jonghyuk had fought the 73rd Demon King in the second round. Practical experience and theoretical knowledge combined forces, so it wasn't impossible to clear the next scenario. Han Soo-young made a sad expression and sighed. You are a really crazy person. TL Rainbow Turtle. Chapter 184. The 73rd Demon King 3. Don't you think the next scenario will still be tough? Han Soo-young asked me. The 73rd Demon King was strong, but there would be no problems if we were thoroughly prepared. Maybe this was the easiest of all the scenarios I had done so far. Shortly afterwards, the people training gathered near me. Have you finished raising your rankings? It was Jung Hee-won who answered my question. We are all in the top 10. In fact, Jihai and Pildu SSI were close, but they automatically upgraded this morning. Automatically? There was only one reason for such an upgrade. It was when a top ranker was killed. Han Soo-young already had an ominous expression. A top 10 ranker suddenly died. Something is strange. Hey, I'm really not going. You came, Kim Dokja. Are you also going to take that woman? Han Soo-young hid behind me at Yu Jonghyuk's sudden appearance. She was still scared of Yu Jonghyuk. I nodded as Yu Jonghyuk stared at Han Soo-young and pulled out the 6-man card. The incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk, has used the 6-man card. The incarnation, Han Soo-young, has become a special participant of the scenario. The Incarnation, Han Soo-young, has joined Incarnation Yu Jong-hyuk's team. Han Soo-young was astonished by the rising messages. What is this? Hey, why am I on his team? Now let's get ready to leave. At my words, the party members moved into their teams. The first to gather was Yu Jong-hyuk's team. They were Lee Hyun-sung, Lee Seol-hwa, Lee Ji-hae, and Gong Pil-do. In addition, there was the complaining Han Soo-young. The unusual mixture of old characters from the novel and new characters gave me a wonderful feeling. It was a luxury that only a reader of Ways of Survival could enjoy. My team followed suit. Jung Hee-won, Yu Sang-ga, Shin Yu-sung, and Lee Gil-young. There was a free atmosphere compared to the military discipline of Yu Jong-hyuk's team. I looked at the members one by one. Why are you looking at us like that? Just, it is a new feeling. I smiled at Jung Hee-won's scolding. I felt pained and sad at the people who followed me well all the way here. I felt like my heart had grown since I talked with the fourth wall. It might be because I was more prepared for this scenario. I was now afraid to lose them. Oh, shouldn't we be a group of 6 as well? The team members followed my gaze. There was a line of dolls a few steps away. Don't stay over there and come here. We had obtained 2 6-man cards. Han Soo-young went to Yu Jong-hyuk's team, and my team also needed a 6th person. To be exact, it was a 6th woman. Suk-young SSI also wanted to go with you. It is more helpful for you to go with me. Jeon Woo-chai's Incarnation, Cho Youngrin, looked at me with complicated eyes. I asked my mother to include her as a member of the team. Jeon Woo-chai's stigma was quite useful for emergency situations. Did you talk to Suk-young SSI? I replied a little bit. Due to the aftereffects of escaping from the fourth wall, my mother wasn't in a position to participate in the next scenario. Thanks to the fourth wall, I discovered different things about my mother. It wasn't just about the past she was hiding. It was also what she experienced after participating in the scenario. Unlike me, who knew the whole story, my mother had a desperate struggle. She paid an unreasonable price to constellations many times, was captured on purpose to steal the memories of the reincarnator Nirvana, and even contracted with the nebulae to keep me safe. Despite knowing all of this, I couldn't find anything to say to my mother, perhaps because it wasn't yet time. Once the scenarios were finished safely, perhaps then we could share the real story. My mother probably knew it as well because she didn't say much this time. She just stared at me for a long time before saying, "I believe in your choice." I didn't know why, but I felt strange when I heard this. Perhaps my mother read something from me, just like I read her through the fourth wall. Depart. We started to move. The target was the altar located in the center of the Abyss Plains. Just like the first floor of Dark Castle, we could move to the next floor using the altar. We started the boring walk, and Jung Hee-won opened her mouth. It bothers me that the nebulae are so quiet. In fact, I hadn't heard the nebulae's messages since 2 days ago. I didn't know if they were hiding something or perhaps they had consumed too much probability. I glanced at Yu Sang-ga and asked, "Have you been in contact with Olympus?" "Not since 3 days ago. As I heard last time, the constellations of Olympus were currently split. The outsiders of Olympus, like Dionysus and Persephone, were the ones who approached Yu Sang-ga. Perhaps 3 days ago, there was a struggle inside Olympus." My expression was uneasy, and Yu Sang-ga spoke in a concerned voice. "Doc SSI, are you okay?" "I'm fine. What about Yu Sang-ga SSI?" "I am trying to be okay." I glanced at Yu Sang-ga. She was such a good person that I would feel sorry if I kept watching her. She learned about my fate first, and I heard that she ran around in order to save me. It wasn't strange for Yu Sang-ga. She was the first person to come forward if something was wrong. In the first scenario, she stood up first to save the grandmother. Yu Sang-ga would act exactly the same if someone else was in my position. "Can we win? We've managed so far, but this time." "Don't worry," I tried to reassure Yu Sang-ga. "I won't die, you know." Yu Sang-ga was the first to see my fate, and she must know that it hadn't disappeared. I was wondering what else I could say to reassure her when I heard Yu Jonghyuk's voice. "We're here." There was a gigantic building reminiscent of the ancient Parthenon. The party members noticeably stiffened, and I called people one by one. "Gilyoung, Yusung, do it as we practiced earlier. Don't call the Chimera Dragon until I give the signal. Do you understand?" The role of these children was the most important thing before the attack on the Demon King. The Chimera Dragon tamed by the children would play a key role in this attack. "Usanga SSI, please protect Young Heewon SSI from being hurt. This time, the main damage dealer will be Young Heewon. Are you familiar with how to fight?" "I remember." Yu Jonghyuk looked this way when he finished preparing, and I pulled the team members over to him. A waist-height altar soon appeared. Yu Jonghyuk and I placed our hands on the palm marks on the altar at the same time. The scenario challengers have been confirmed. Scenario challenger, first in Dark Castle, Yu Jonghyuk. Scenario challenger, second in Dark Castle, Kim Dokja. Total number of people admitted, 12 people. Are you sure you want to enter the scenario? We all nodded at the same time. There were dazzling rays of light, and our bodies were transferred to the next floor. The place we were transferred to was a cramped passage. You have entered the new main scenario area. Main Scenario 10, 73rd Demon King has started. As expected, it was the same development as the original novel. Once we followed this passage, we would reach the hall where the 73rd Demon King was waiting. Prepare the formations. We moved carefully along the passage. The difficulty depended on how much damage was inflicted with the first surprise attack. If we could get as close as possible and deal a large amount of damage, we might be able to finish it without using all the formations we practiced. However, as I moved along the passage, a worrisome feeling filled my mind. Why was it so quiet? Shouldn't I feel the Demon King's aura at this point? Then a system message emerged. An error has occurred in the scenario. Hyung, this is. The surprised Lee Gilyoung reflexively opened his mouth, and I placed my finger against his lips. The party members lowered their voices. "Dokja SI, this is different from the story. There are dead people here." The one who spoke was Lee Hyun-sung, who had been searching in the front. We moved as stealthily as possible and gathered near Lee Hyun-sung. Surprisingly, there were bodies that looked like they just died. Yu Jonghyuk touched them and powerful sparks popped out. It is evidence of a probability storm. I didn't know what they had done, but if the sparks were still here after their deaths, their sponsors must have done something huge. The incarnations had used a lot of force, and the sponsors behind them must have suffered a huge blow. Who the hell had done this? Then Yu Jonghyuk opened his mouth. The incarnations of Vedas and Papyrus. What? I've met them wandering around Dark Castle. They were in contact with me. How did those guys come here? A terminal of the nebulae would have sufficient rankings, but they wouldn't have the right to participate in the scenario. It looks like there was another six-man card. One question was resolved. The sudden rise in Lee Jihai and Gong Pildu's ranking was because of the rankers killed here. I had an ominous hunch. Were the nebulae quiet because they used up all their probability here? It meant. We reflexively looked at each other, and Yu Jonghyuk started running towards the hall, forgetting the formation. If I was right, now wasn't the time to worry about the formations. The moment we arrived in the hall, we witnessed a shocking sight. Constellations, what the hell are you doing? Dozens of dakibus floated in the air in the center of the hall. It is difficult if you do such arbitrary things. Aren't you looking down on the star stream, using Deus ex machina in this place? The words weren't directed towards us, but we were obviously meant to hear. Bihyung looked awkward as he met my gaze. This jerk, what the hell? I know you are worried about the incarnations, but the scenario won't be over just because you interfere. Some of you have received a blow that nearly destroyed you. Why the hell did you do this? Just look at the probability. All the lower constellations have collapsed. There was a strange smile on the face of the representative Dakibai. He smiled like he knew this would happen from the beginning. Wait a minute, what did that bastard just say? Kim Dokja. I looked in the direction that Yu Jonghyuk was pointing, the center of the hall. There was a broken throne that should have originally contained the 73rd Demon King. In addition, the fearsome Demon King that we should have met. The 73rd Demon King is dead. He was lying dead on the ground, his chest torn apart. What is this? He's dead. After Han Soo-young's words, the other members belatedly opened their mouths. The Demon King is already dead. Then what will happen to the scenario? Maybe it has already ended. My head was too complicated that I couldn't hear the voices of the people. The unqualified incarnations challenged the scenario, received the probability storm, and killed the Demon King with the support of the nebulae. At first, the scenario seemed to be resolved. However, the main scenarios of the star stream weren't so simple. The star stream has corrected the balance of this scenario. The scenarios where transcendent existences excessively intervened were forcibly corrected by the star stream. There was a strong sense of déjà vu in my head. It wasn't the 73rd Demon King scenario, but a similar thing happened in Ways of Survival. The scenario was ruined by the rioting of constellations, and the star stream restored the main scenario. Then what would happen? The star stream has corrected the broken probability. I looked at the dead Demon King. The star stream liked the natural flow of stories, and it couldn't revive dead existences. A time reversal or resurrection would undermine the probability of the scenario even more. The main scenario contents have been updated. The 73rd Demon King was dead. However, a 73rd Demon King was still needed. It was because we had to hunt him in order to proceed with the scenario. The star stream was originally set to fix these contradictions. There was a shining precious jade in the spot where the Demon King had died. I reflexively muttered, "Hey, this." By the way, I couldn't feel any signs around me. There was an eerie feeling creeping down my spine. Time seemed to flow very slowly. I looked around and Yu Jonghyuk wasn't there. Yu Jonghyuk. By the time I moved, Yu Jonghyuk had already reached the jade. His expression as he looked at me was something I had never seen before. Yu Jonghyuk was looking at me with eyes that had never been present in Ways of Survival. Kim Dokja, be sure to keep your promise. Then the system messages rose. The candidate for the 73rd Demon King has been found. The new 73rd Demon King is elected. Chapter 185, The 73rd Demon King 4. Hey, what nonsense are you saying? I shouted while hurriedly running towards Yu Jonghyuk. Aura started to emerge from Yu Jonghyuk's body as he held the piece of jade. The selected person is evolving into a Demon King. The person who was selected by the jade would become the 73rd Demon King. Can you promise not to give up on that goal, no matter what? A few days ago, Yu Jonghyuk had asked me a meaningful question about my goal. Was my goal to reach the end of the scenarios? Don't tell me. No, it was impossible. I almost had a fit as I screamed, "Yu Jonghyuk, you son of a bitch." Then the sound of steel wire moving through the air was heard. Dozens of wires poured down towards Yu Jonghyuk, one of them snatching the jade that was in Yu Jonghyuk's hand. The succession of the Demon King is cancelled. A bewildered expression appeared on Yu Jonghyuk's face. Dokja Sesai. I looked back and saw dozens of threads stretching out from Yu Sanga's hand. As everyone was frozen, only she kept her mind. She tied up the Demon King's jade with binding thread and it flew to this side. Yu Jonghyuk let out a huge burst of killing intent. Don't interrupt. As soon as an intense wave of magic power was about to cover Yu Sanga, I triggered Bookmark and Way of the Wind and blocked the magic power. It wasn't easy to block, even with Way of the Wind at the maximum level. This was the power of Yu Jonghyuk, who had become a transcendent. I shouted through clenched teeth. Yu Sanga Sesai, hold it well, never use it. Yes. My party members were wondering what the hell was going on. Han Soo-young created dozens of clones and shouted, "I knew this would happen. Kim Dokja, I told you. Yu Jonghyuk is someone who only thinks about himself to the end. Han Soo-young kept shouting, while I was unable to grasp the situation properly. Kim Dokcha, we must stop him. This jerk is obviously going to become the Demon King, kill all of us and clear the scenario alone. Han Soo-young's clone blocked Yu Jonghyuk and exploded instantly. Han Soo-young's main body was trapped against the wall of the hallway. The other party members rushed in front of me. Master, what's wrong with you, Kayak? Yu Jonghyuk SSI. Lee Jihai and Jung Hee-won as well. They couldn't cope with Yu Jonghyuk's blow and fell. Now Yu Jonghyuk was serious. He was committed to defeating all those who interfered with his purpose. I stepped past the party members while telling them, you can't deal with him. Yu Jonghyuk's eyes glared at me. Get out of the way, Kim Dokcha. I will be the Demon King. What nonsense is this? Why all of a sudden? Shouldn't you know as well? There is only one way to clear this scenario. I glanced at the scenario window floating in the air. Main Scenario 10, 73rd Demon King. Category Main. Difficulty Level. Clear conditions. You can choose one of two ways. Take possession of the throne and become the 73rd Demon King, or kill the newly born 73rd Demon King. The scenario can only be cleared by choosing one of these two methods, and there is no other way to proceed. Time limit 30 minutes. Compensation 200,000 coins. Failure, death, and expulsion from the scenario. This scenario was similar to the sacrifice scenario. One person had to die for everyone, or one person would live while everyone else died. I bit my lips and asked, are you going to sacrifice yourself? Hunt me and go to the next scenario. Why are you doing something like this all of a sudden? This is the right thing to do. There was no doubt that he thought this was the right answer. Yu Jonghyuk spoke with his unique nuances. I am used to the pain. Similarly, I am familiar with death. Don't you already know this? He was certain that I knew all about him. However, Yu Jonghyuk was wrong. I didn't know Yu Jonghyuk. The Yu Jonghyuk I knew would never do this. It seemed like there was room to talk, so I decided to calm down this damn sunfish. I know what you are saying, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself. You are a regressor, but you don't have multiple lives. I have resurrection on my side. That's why you're not the one suitable to become the Demon King. Resurrection. It is a good ability. However, do you think it will work in this scenario? If you have seen the scenario failure, can you be certain that resurrection will save you? I had forgotten for a moment. Certainly, Yu Jonghyuk was right. This scenario didn't just end with death. This jerk had calculated it and moved. Get out of the way, Kim Dokcha. My unbroken faith cried out while his heaven-shaking sword pointed at me. In this stubborn, confrontational state, I desperately thought about it. How could I persuade this person? No matter how much I squeezed my head, I couldn't come up with a method. If this continued, this jerk would become the Demon King and take the damn regression route. The exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Stage 2 has been activated. I started to soak up his thoughts like a sponge. The cost of failing this scenario is expulsion from the scenario. There is no one who can survive being expelled from the scenario. Then Kim Dokcha's resurrection ability is meaningless. Perhaps this is the death that his fate is pointing to. If Kim Dokcha becomes the Demon King, he will die here. My heart was heavy as I received the waterfall of thoughts. Thus, it is me who should sacrifice themselves here. This guy was really going to sacrifice himself, the arrogant and aloof Yu Jonghyuk. It was for the sake of others, not himself. Suddenly, unknown emotions rose inside me. Then you, what about you? If you die here, what about your damn goal? You will do it for me. What? Yu Jonghyuk watched our companions behind me. The one who can save the world, it might be you, not me. Li Hyunsung Li Jihai, Shin Yusung Li Xiaohua. There was deep regret in Yu Jonghyuk's eyes as he gazed at every single person. I seemed to know what he was thinking. There have never been so many people who made it to here, and maybe it won't happen again in the future. This was the Yu Jonghyuk who had experienced several lives and received advance information from the 41st regression. There were no cases like this regression. This fact caused Yu Jonghyuk to shake. My mind worked quickly. How could I persuade him? Get out of the way, there isn't much time left. He used giant body transformation and started to swell up dramatically. He had either grown stronger in 3 days or the party members were frozen by the energy he was emitting. Yu Sanga was terrified, and Yu Jonghyuk approached her step by step. I eventually activated the Blade of Faith. Stop it, you son of a bitch. The white ether sword collided with Yu Jonghyuk, splitting the sky. Of course, it was my side that suffered one-sided damage. I had to use at least electrification to deal with this guy. I couldn't let him take the path of regression. The moment I was about to activate Bookmark, Yu Jonghyuk asked me, "Are you concerned about what will happen to this world after I go back?" "What?" "You must be afraid. The moment I disappear, this world will disappear. Isn't that right?" I was so surprised that I was lost for words. How the hell did he know this? I started to wonder if he was the one with Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint instead of me. Then I forgot even this thought. There's nothing to worry about. I already asked my sponsor. What? This world won't disappear if I regress. This world won't end or be upset if I die. Yu Jonghyuk easily suppressed Yu Sanga and reached for the precious jade. As if it wanted him, demonic energy stretched out from the jade and tangled around Yu Jonghyuk's fingers. Continue to live, Kim Dokja. Yu Jonghyuk looked at me with the face of a stranger. Now you have to save this world. Thunder struck the sky on the second floor of Dark Castle. It was a sinister thunder, as if suggesting the collapse of Dark Castle. Lee Suk-young gazed at the sky as she moved with the Wanderers. Her son was probably beyond this sky. Hulhul, you look very worried these days. It was Lee Bixun who spoke. She handed her Dark Castle Rankin to Jung Hee-won and chose to stay here. Lee Suk-young glanced at Lee Bixun for a while before replying, "I guess I'm not familiar with being a mother." "Do people get used to it? You will never get used to it in your life." "Me too." "You aren't going to bring up the story of raising 6 siblings again, are you?" "Hulhul, you knew." Lee Bixun chuckled. There were no Wanderers who didn't know the story of the 6 siblings raised by Lee Bixun. Lee Bixun patted Lee Suk-young's shoulder and spoke in a friendly voice. "He will surely come back alive. Don't worry too much." "I wish, but fate says differently." "You don't think that fate can be overcome, to me." In the end, Lee Bixun retold the story of how she raised her 6 siblings through all types of hardships. Lee Suk-young smiled bitterly. No one would have suffered if fate was so easily overcome. If he doesn't go to the next scenario, Incarnation Kim Dokja can live. Lee Suk-young sacrificed 20 years of her life, and read this sentence from Fate. Kim Dokja could live if he didn't go to the next scenario. In other words, Kim Dokja would surely die when he went to the next scenario. Dokja. However, Lee Suk-young didn't give up even when all indicators pointed to the death of her son. She couldn't let go. There was the sound of falling sound, and Lee Suk-young looked down at her fingertips. Her body was still crumbling because her recovery was slow and incomplete. It was all due to the aftereffects of entering the 4th wall. Lee Suk-young remembered the moment she was eaten by the 4th wall. It was a terrible experience, as if her being itself was breaking down into morphine units. Perhaps she died at that time. Like a broken story, she was sucked into the wall and experienced something no human ever had before. She was shocked that there was such a wall inside her son. She also shuddered at the fact that someone was living inside the wall. What the hell is it? There, Lee Suk-young confronted the presence inside the wall. Her existence was crushed and recreated, so there weren't many accurate memories left. The exact structure of the interior of the wall she didn't remember. Still, there was one thing she remembered. It was the answer to a question. What is the way for my son to survive? How can he get rid of that damn fate? Lee Suk-young asked this even when her existence was fading away. The being inside the wall laughed like it was having fun. There is only one way to escape from fate. There was a strange smile, as if this whole situation was a joke. Kim Daksha already knows how to do it.